Okay, so we are officially live on Facebook for Spotlight Sunday with Kate Allyson. So first thing, we always start off, just kind of tell me a little bit about you and your business and why you started your business and what it means and all that good stuff.
All right, so as you mentioned, I'm Kate. I started my business because I had the desire to work from home. I really found that working in a traditional office environment was very stressful, and it caused my anxiety to kind of go crazy. And then I didn't have, like, when I was at work, I didn't have like a safe space where I could go to process those feelings, and that was really difficult.
Yeah.
So I realized that, working from home is a way for me to, one, take a lot of that anxiety out, and then two, just really be able to focus on doing what I want to do and not what someone else thinks I should be doing.
Yes, I love that. That's like almost my exact same story. Like just being in a corporate environment. I don't know exactly where you came from, but that's like
and also, I mean, I was living in Denver at the time, and my commute to work was crazy. And it's just, now my commute is from my bedroom to my office. It's like 20 steps. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, cool. So the next thing I like to ask everybody is just kind of, what's your definition of branding? What does it really mean for you? And has it affected your business in any way?
So to me, branding it's a way to represent who you are and what you do. And I think some people tend to think of branding as just being logos and fonts and colors, but it's so much more than that. It's also, the words that you use, how you talk to your clients, how you talk to your audience. There's so much that goes into it that really everything you do is part of your brand.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that. So that's, and understanding that has also helped me gain clarity on what it is. Okay, so what are my values? What is it that I want my brand to represent? And how can I show that in my branding?
I love it. Perfect. I love it. So do you feel like when you started focusing on branding, did that change how you approached your business at all, or how did it change it, if at all?
For sure. I'll be honest, I don't have all of my branding like completely down right now. I'm kind of going through a shift in my business.
Yeah.
So, some of it is kind of up in the air, but I will say that having the branding down in terms of like wording and, the values that I use and the way that I talk to my customers, that has really, really helped me. And having that down, really, again, it brings focus to my business. It reminds me of why it is that I'm doing this, and, and it shows my passion for helping people.
Yes. And I loved, you said a second ago too, when you were talking about clarity and just clarity for your clients, but also for you. I think that's
right. Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah. So cool. Okay. So that's my intro part that I like to ask everybody. So what are you going to teach us today?
So as I mentioned, I recently went through a shift in my business. So I'd like to talk about how important it is that we find our zone of genius and that we live it.
Okay. Love it. I love that.
Yeah, because I think that, so first of all, a little bit of backstory. I've had so many situations where I was in a situation that wasn't ideal, but I was afraid to leave for one reason or another. My first job, I was afraid to leave because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know where else I could get hired. My marriage, I was scared to leave that because I didn't know, like, well, will anyone else ever love me? And of course other people will love me. That's silly. So for me, I realized that for the past, 10 years or so, I've been living my life out of fear. And I realized that that's not really a way to live.
Right.
So about a year ago, I started making decisions that felt true to me, including leaving my marriage, moving. I was living out west at the time, moving back to Pennsylvania, which is where my family is and where a lot of my friends are. And I feel like making those decisions has really opened up new avenues for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now my expertise, my background's in education.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the past year and a half, I have been helping people create online courses.
Okay.
And I kind of had the realization, this was about 2 weeks ago, that this wasn't really what I wanted to be doing.
Okay.
And that's tough because, you spend so much time building this business and then you realize that something just isn't clicking. And I realized that the missing piece was that I wasn't actually interacting with the people taking the course. I was just creating the courses and then putting them out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was lacking that feeling of, seeing that aha moment when the student gets it, or seeing the transformation that they go through. And I really felt like missing that. I just wasn't doing what I was meant to be doing.
Yeah.
And I've also, noticed that when I start paying attention, I noticed that there were a lot of things happening that were kind of pointing me in one direction. And I didn't really put it all together until recently, but so I have always been an avid reader. I could read when I was like 3 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and I read all the time. And I realized that what I really want to do is be a book editor, because
Cool.
that's what I really love to do. And I think that finding that, so I met someone who was what precipitated this was I met someone who was an author, and I started working with him on helping him improve his book. It's actually pretty well. It's well written, but every author has little inconsistencies or little things that they think are perfectly clear, but that aren't really to the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Oh, you're really good at this." And I thought, I am really good at this. Why am I not doing this? This is what I want to do.
Awesome.
And so ever since making that shift, I just feel a lot lighter. I feel like I'm much more excited to start my day. I'm more excited to help people. And I think that, I still have a fondness for teaching. I will probably at some point create a course on how to write a book and how to self-publish,
Mm-hmm.
because that seems to be very popular these days. So, so I think that when you're living in your zone of genius, and that doesn't just mean like doing what you love, it also means like being very intentional about how you spend your free time.
Yes.
Making sure that, for example, that I'm taking my dog for a walk every day.
Mm-hmm.
That's so important. And I think that sometimes we lose sight of that. We think, oh, I'm so tired, I just want to relax. But we don't realize that how we use our time is crucial to our happiness. And we need to make things happen that make us happy. We need to make an effort to go out and do those things, find what they are. If that's like, I really love hiking, so I've been trying to get out more. Mm-hmm. Especially with my dog. She loves it too, because she can go off leash and run, and she's the happiest dog in the world when she can do that. Mm-hmm. And especially if there's a stream nearby where she can splash in.
Yeah, of course. And mud, always mud, right?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, it's not,
they find that immediately.
I always figure that, the more muddy she is, the better of a time she has. So, it's worth it. It's totally worth it.
That's funny.
So it's just about, making this realization and making these shifts, thinking also about like who it is that I want to spend my time with. Mm-hmm. I think that's also something that we don't realize is that, when we're surrounded by people who are very negative, that affects us and that can bring us down. Yes. And that was one of the problems that I was having in my marriage. Was my ex was he was a very angry person, and he never took it out on me. He was very careful not to take it out on me, but it's still the fact that he was always angry. It meant that there's always this huge ball of tension in our house. And it just never felt like I never felt comfortable and safe there. Yeah. And I didn't realize how much it was affecting me until I left. Right. So it really is amazing how how much things can change when we make the decision to change them, and when we realize, what it is that we need in order to be fulfilled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. Your story, I'm just like mesmerized because there's so many similarities there, like between us. And if you don't mind, can I ask kind of a personal question? Sorry, my phone's like vibrating and flashing. So, and feel free to like say, no, I'm not comfortable sharing. That's fine. But I know for me to like go from sitting in my cube to making that huge drastic change, like you're talking about, it took something happening. So I'm just wondering, like, was there just like one day where you're like, F this, I'm done? Or was it kind of like a slow, gradual, or like, how did that happen for you? Like, how did you make that decision?
So what happened was that I was at a job, and, like I said, I wasn't really happy there. But I didn't actually make the decision to leave.
Okay.
Since I was married at the time, and my father-in-law was very sick.
Okay.
And so my then husband and I made the decision to move closer to his father. And because of that, I didn't have the job. And so I was looking for other jobs, and I found one job where I was teaching online. So the other thing that I do is I teach English online to kids in China.
Oh, cool.
So I found that job, and I really, really enjoy it. It's really fun. And, I feel like I get to do the teaching that I want to do without having to deal with all of the bureaucracy that's part of our public school system here.
Cool.
So I really like that. But I found that due to the time differences between here and China, I couldn't really make a full living at it. And so I needed something else to supplement that. And so it was because of that, because I realized, after I started doing that, I thought was, well, this will serve as a bridge until I can get another full-time job. But I realized once I started doing it, I don't want to go back to work. This is fun. I like working from home. So it wasn't intentional.
That's
but
cool.
I'm very happy the way that it ultimately worked out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love hearing how like different people get to the same place, just like different circumstances can lead you where you want to be. But I think like what you're talking about is so important because it's so easy to just stay there, even though you're not happy. And like sometimes, like you said, it happens for you. You don't make the decision. Right. But a lot of times, like you'll just stay there if you don't make that decision. Right. And it's I feel like it's so important to not wait for something to happen or
yeah. And I agree. I feel like I waited too long. Especially to get out of the marriage. I feel like, I knew that I wasn't happy in it for quite a while, but I didn't want to give up on it, and I was scared. I was scared that, this is kind of personal, but I do live with anxiety and depression. And I was scared that like, well, I'm so messed up. Why would anyone else ever want to be with me? But that's just the depression talking, and it lies. So, I've learned not to listen to that. Yeah.
I like that response.
Yeah. Depression lies. It does. For anyone in here who's struggling with that, just remember, whenever your brain tells you those things, it's the depression and it's a lying bitch. So just don't listen to it.
I love that. I love that.
And since after getting the divorce, I waited a little while, but then I did start dating again. And, it took, and I realized that, there were plenty of men who wanted to go on dates with me. And I eventually found the guy that I'm dating now. And, he's seen me have a full-blown anxiety attack, and he was totally there for me. Awesome. He wasn't like, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Which I was really scared of. But, so it's just that, no matter how messed up we think we are, other people can still love us and can still accept us for who we are.
That's awesome.
That's important. Yeah.
It is. And like you said, it's depression and anxiety. They're both liars. And I have anxiety also. And like my natural tendency, of course, is just worst case scenario. Like anything absolutely. Terrible that could possibly happen. That's where my brain goes.
Yeah.
And it's so important to just recognize that that's what it is and do something anyway. And it's so easy to just say that, of course, but.
and not only that, but also, sometimes when you think about the worst case scenario, like you think about it And if you actually play the whole thing through in your head, it's actually not as bad as you think it is.
Right.
So,
So
so there's two sides to that. One is that, yeah, that worst case scenario probably won't happen, but even if it does, you'll survive.
Yeah, that's so true. Absolutely. I love it. This has been so fun because we totally switched last minute because the course creation thing. And I love hearing how that happened and why. I think that's so important. And I'm so excited for you that you're just like, dude, I'm done. I'm doing what I want to do. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So if anyone in here is looking for a book editor or you know someone who is, I would be more than happy to help out because I'm just starting out. My rates are pretty low right now. So now would be a good time. Yeah.
Do you do like all kinds of editing or just like fiction or nonfiction, or does it matter?
So my focus is on fiction, but I can do other types of editing as well. So with fiction, I can help people with, outlining the story, developing the characters, planning out the plot, filling in the details. And then, once the story's written, I can also help with copy editing, looking for spelling and grammar errors, along with making sure that, the story is consistent, the characters are consistent. So, all of that stuff, that's all part of what I do.
That's awesome. That's really similar to Tanya Schofield that's in the group with us. She, I worked with her in the past, and that's very similar to her. So you guys should like hook up. We're all about like community over competition, right? So
absolutely.
Awesome. That's so fun. So let me ask, like, which part of that is your favorite? Like, do you like doing all three and kind of start to finish with a book, or would you prefer to only do one? Or
I like working start to finish with a book because I like watching it take shape. Because a lot of times, when people start writing, they have one idea of what their book is going to be, and then they keep writing and it kind of goes in its own direction sometimes. And it's really fascinating to watch that, to see that story evolve and how that process works. So I really like starting from the beginning and then going to see the finish and then being able to see the finished product.
Yeah, I love it. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see kind of how, like you're talking about, how yours kind of takes shape, because I looked at your website and everything when we first talked, but now it's totally different. So I'm excited to see what you do with
it. Yeah, I am too.
Yeah. So do you have any ideas so far about like freebies or marketing strategies, or what you're going to do to kind of get your new message out there?
Yeah, so I'm working on developing a freebie. It's a character development worksheet. Cool. So that, as you're creating your story, you can fill this out for each of your main characters to really round them out as a person, so that you don't just think of them as, as a character, but actually think of them as a person. And what I found is that, a lot of times people say, well, those details aren't on the story, so it doesn't matter. But the more you know about your character, the more you understand his or her perspective, the more they become a real person with their own voice.
Yeah. And
I think that that's so important when writing, is that each character needs to have their own voice, because we are all different. And, we don't all speak the same. And it's important to make sure that, your characters are consistent in their voice, and that, and that there's some nice contrast too between the characters.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so cool. So that's all the questions that I have lined up. Unless there's anything else specific that you want to talk about. I mean, we could talk all day about, like I said, there's a lot of similarities here.
Yeah.
Loving it. I'm like, yay, new friends.
So one other thing I'm going to be doing on my blog is I'm going to be doing book reviews. So if someone is interested in, having a book reviewed, or if they want to know, like, hey, is this book any good? I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, so that's kind of my focus area. So yeah, keep an eye on my website, and I'll be posting those and sharing my favorite books. And
awesome. Yeah. Okay. Well, I know we have the link over in the events tab. I'll go ahead and make sure that it's in the video also, so everybody.
Yeah, my website is still geared towards course creation, but it'll change over the next couple weeks.
Cool. I'm excited to kind of check back and see how it's going.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been so much fun. I'm so excited. Like when you messaged me and you're like, I don't want to do course creation anymore. I was like, okay. Well, I've been like super excited to see what you're going to talk about, because I love it when people just say, I'm done, like I said before, and just change their whole thing. Like, it's inspiring to me, because like I said, I have that same kind of journey where I just stayed stuck forever. And I love hearing about those points where you just go for it.
So how did you find that branding was your thing?
So when I first started, I did freelance design, like graphic design. And that's what I went to school for original. Like, that's what I got my degree in, even though I changed my major like 6 times before that. But I ended up with a graphic design degree, and I was like, I'm going to have a design agency. It's going to be so awesome, and just freelance and work from home. And it just didn't turn out like that. And it, like, looking back, it was totally my fault. Like, I didn't brand myself and kind of set up those expectations. So I was attracting the wrong type of clients and getting a lot of the, the typical freelancer story. They want the cheapest and they want all that stuff. So I worked with a few that I kind of felt like did value the design process and like understand, designing for your audience and understand all the strategy and the messaging that goes behind it. And I did get to work with a couple in that capacity. Just, I didn't charge for it at that time, because it was kind of more like they came to me for, a logo or a website, and they were like, but if you have, if you have an opinion, I would love to hear. And of course I did. So it just kind of evolved from there. I realized that I liked doing it that way. It took a long, like, I'm saying that in a short story, but this is like a 5-year period where in between I got really pissed, and I was like, okay, I hate freelancing. And I ended up in a corporate job for 5 years, sitting in my cube doing, still graphic design, but not creative design at all, following corporate guidelines, like down to the millimeter, and nothing fun. So
that's
kind of just a long evolution. But
that's another thing that I don't like about working in an office is it seems like there are always these weird rules that you have to follow and that don't make any sense.
I don't miss that at all. Like, not even a little bit. I was worried, like, when I first quit, I was like, am I gonna miss some of this? But I'm like, another thing about me, just, I'm a super introvert, and like I remember dreading getting up to walk to the bathroom because somebody was gonna like stop me and talk to me. I don't want to talk to you. So I don't miss any of it. And I'm like, rules just for the sake of rules drive me insane. So like I couldn't wear, like, I had to dress fancy, not fancy, but business casual. Like, I want to wear my Converse.
And if you're not even client facing, it was the same for me. It's like, they're not seeing us. Why can't we just wear t-shirts and shorts? Like,
exactly.
Really?
Exactly. So, but so I'm loving your message, because it's very similar to mine in that. And it's just like, once you figure out what you want to do, just freaking do it.
Just go for it and have faith that it'll work.
Yes.
I mean, you have to put in the work. It's not gonna, it doesn't happen easily, but if you put in the work and it's what you're meant to do, then it'll work out.
Yes, that's so true. I love it. That's awesome. Well, it's been so much fun talking to you, and we need to like stay in touch. Like, we're friends. So, and Tanya, I'll tag Tanya in the comments, because it's very similar what you guys are doing.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I'd love to talk to her, find out how she got into it and everything.
Yeah, she's awesome. You'll like her.
All right.
Cool. All right, well, we'll hop off here. I'll be back on Thursday. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about, but I'll be back on Thursday. And if anybody watching the replay, let us know that you're here. And if you have any questions for Kate or myself, just type them in the comments and we'll get back to you. But
all right, this was fun.
This was fun. Thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome. All right.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye.